It's Thursday, 4th of August, and you're listening to the GameGrin GrinCast. I'm your host, Hamiltonius, and with me this week are Ace.
Hello.
Cal.
Hello.
MZ.
Hello.
And Fowler.
Hello.
And we're also joined by special guests Rob Zubek and Matt Viglione from SomaSim Games, developers of the upcoming skyscraper simulation, Project Highrise. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, to start us off before we actually jump into the news, why don't you both give us a short introduction about yourselves and about Project Highrise itself?
Who should go first?
You.
I just
Fight to the
death. All right, so my name is Rob Zubek. I'm the programmer on Project Highrise and co-founder with Matt of SomaSim. And we're a Chicago-based studio. We're into simulation games of all kinds, really, both in terms of like the games that we like to play and also the games we make. And over to Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Viglione. I'm the other co-founder of SomaSim. I'm the art director and game designer, and also player of many hours of simulation and strategy games.
Fantastic. Well, anyone listening on GameGrin currently, we have a preview for Project Highrise and also an interview with both, which can be featured. But yeah, so welcome, guys, and we'll jump straight into the usual format with the news. And we're starting off with a big one that we haven't actually managed to cover on the podcast previously, and that is the rumours, or rather the strong rumours, that the Nintendo NX is going to be a portable console. The sources at Eurogamer have found out that it's essentially going to be a high-powered handheld with its own display that you can lock into a dock when you're at home for charging and playing on the television, and then pulling it out and taking it away with you when you want to play outside the house, with detachable controllers as well. So definitely another sign of Nintendo thinking outside the box with their console design. Although I don't know what do people think, whether it's going to be a success or is it just going to be another gimmicky kind of thing from Nintendo?
My big question is it going to be rechargeable or use AA's?
Oh God,
I doubt it.
I'd imagine it must be rechargeable.
It's looking at it because it's going to be using NVIDIA Tegra's mobile chip, so it's essentially going to be like one of them tablet, one of a very powerful tablet. So it's going to be charged like that. But then if it's the docking station with it, then that would be also a charging base, methinks.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it. I think it sounds really good.
I hate it.
Really? I think it sounds really good.
I feel like it's going to be another Wii gimmick.
I feel the same. The only thing I'm interested in is that it will potentially make the 3DS cheaper. I might get one.
You say the Wii's gimmicky, but, you know, it was a success.
The Wii U, not so much.
The Wii U, not so much.
It feels like Nintendo haven't learned from the Wii U where, you know, no one really cared about a handheld unit, and they've literally gone and made a brand new console that is, surprise, surprise, a handheld unit.
So what did you want them to do? Like, try and compete with the PS4 and Xbox?
It's something like that, just more advanced and not... It just always feels so gimmicky with them now. Like, to me, it feels extremely gimmicky, and the whole idea of they're going back to, I think they said cartridges or something?
Yeah,
so
that's the rumor.
That's the only weird thing I don't like about it.
No backwards compatibility, that would mean, as well. I guess if you could somehow... I don't know if they'll do, like, a download thing.
They have the Virtual Console already.
Okay.
I suppose the idea with them going with cartridges again is because if it is a portable console, then you're not going to be wanting to carry around discs and whatnot. So a cartridge makes sense. It's like with the PSP when that came out. They were technically discs, but they were in a sort of casing. So it was a whole brand new format, UMD.
Cartridges are fairly bulky. I imagine they'd have some sort of download thing. I'm good with words today. Downloadableness onto the console so that you can carry it around with the games on it rather than with the cartridges. I don't know.
As long as they don't do something stupid like some proprietary memory slot. Like you get a base model that's like 32 gig, or you need the upgraded, like they did with the Wii U.
That's exactly what it is.
They had a base unit and a more powerful unit which had a larger storage, and then you could use micro SD, but they could use their own type of storage, and you have to pay an extortionate price, like the Vita.
Well, the 3DS and 2DS both use SD cards.
Oh, there you go. They should use that then.
Here's the other thing,
I don't
though.
own 3DS.
The cartridges for the games are only going to be 32 gig.
See, again, not a bad idea. I don't see a problem with that.
Well, it's just, it kind of goes back on what they had said about how they were promising this would be like the advanced console that would graphically and stuff and content-wise compete with PlayStation and Xbox. But when you look at like most Xbox and PlayStation games now, they're 40 to 50 gig at least for any of the major titles.
They're blown out of proportion. I mean, I had Batman Arkham Knight installed, and that was, the base game was 50 gig, and then all the downloadable content, which was required, even though I didn't actually own it, it totaled up to about 70 odd gig, but it's because these are so blown out of proportion because of piracy. These are using uncompressed information so that when you download it, it's much larger to, steal. Because so they're going to be using compressed data, and we don't know what sort of compression or file type these are going to be using. It could be all right. Most games are only about 10, 12 gig.
It doesn't sound that big to me, to be honest, or like enough for future titles at least.
I think another thing it shows, and perhaps Matt and Rob might want to weigh in on this as well, is that obviously if they're making cartridges, it seems like Nintendo is keeping up with that strategy of just not having any third-party titles at all, or letting any sort of independent development happen.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, they can manage with that.
That they're in a weird situation right now, in the sense that, like, you look at any of our friends who have kids or whatever, kids are so natural with tablets, right? You give a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old a tablet, and they know exactly how to play with it, what to do with it, with a phone, with a tablet, anything with the touch screen, like
buy in-app purchases.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and all of the parents already have little game devices that they walk around with in their pockets, or tablets at home or whatever. Nintendo's they're gonna have such an uphill battle with this. I don't know how this is gonna work.
Yeah, that is a fair point, to be honest with you, because it doesn't look like if they are going through with a tablet design and a portable design, they're trying to compete with iPhones, iPads, Android tablets, and all that. They're kind of just going away from, okay, we can't win against Sony and Microsoft. Okay, let's try and take on the mobile market. And they've got some success with the 3DS, but that's because of the exclusives. What is going to be the game to get when everyone's out playing Pokemon Go already?
That's the other thing as well. The
Mario
big
Sunshine
difference
2. There you are.
Between the NX and all these like tablets and Androids and iPhones and stuff is they're open to third party. Nintendo is not, and I was really disappointed in the whole idea that it seems like they're moving away again from third party when they started doing like Super Mario Maker, where it was finally embracing like community made stuff, and it looked like they might finally shift towards more third party things.
But then again, the thing that confused me, it's not really confused me, but the thing that intrigues me is because all the other manufacturers have gone with AMD. They've gone with NVIDIA for their mobile market. So this could also be an experiment for NVIDIA, because they're developing the graphics chip and the processor chip for it. So if they get success with this, then they might think, why don't we make a more powerful Shield tablet that supports like Witcher 3, for example, on the go, or really high graphic PC games on the go. NVIDIA's point of view could be like that, and then Nintendo's basically, we're going to make an awesome handheld.
But with all of the everything we have already for mobile gaming, do we really need this?
I think the appeal comes in having a handheld with the sort of the user appeal that Nintendo has. If you've got iPads and tablets are all very well with their own independent apps and games like Candy Crush and Clash of Clans and things like that. But if you had a tablet, essentially a tablet that had Zelda, Mario, games like that on it, then surely that gives it a one-up over games that just have apps on them.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't see it that way, because when I want to, like, if I want to play Mario or Zelda or anything, I want to sit down and play it for a couple hours. Whereas I find with mobile games, I like that idea because you can pick it up, play it for 5 minutes, and then put it back down again. I just don't see the appeal behind picking this console up, walking into my bedroom to play Zelda for a little bit, and then go back and put it back down again.
But it's ideal
Yeah, I
for
agree with you.
commuters. You know,
But
I
this
mean,
isn't
Though it
really
depends
their
on the
target.
yeah, it depends on the battery life. It depends on how heavy this thing is as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I don't like the idea of like with a handheld games console. Like I'm on the couch, sat in front of the TV, and I've got a PlayStation hooked up to it, or I got my PC, and I'm sat there playing a mobile game. You know, I would get bored for a few minutes after a few minutes.
Yeah,
And the controllers are a separate entity, so you couldn't play Zelda on the bus. Otherwise, you'd have the, if you're lucky enough to get a seat on the bus, then you'd have the NX on your lap and the
yeah, I guess.
controller hovering above it.
But are the controllers mandatory? Has that been confirmed, or are they just kind of like
No.
you would have a controller for Steam, whereas you don't necessarily need it?
It's all speculation and rumor at the moment, but I mean, it seems like that's what it's going towards. But if you look at like, I'm not too sure about the Wii U, but the Wii had N64 ports. Not N64 ports. GameCube support, controller support. So maybe they might allow an adapter. Like they did that with the Wii U, didn't they? An adapter.
No idea.
Yeah, they did. They did, definitely.
They did. Oh, thanks for jumping in, Bod. Cool. So they did an adapter for Super Smash Brothers. They did an adapter. So I'm sure enough they'll probably introduce some adapter, or if it's got Bluetooth, built-in Bluetooth, then they could have possibility of introducing a Wii gamepad Bluetooth edition for that reason.
The way I see it, it's kind of similar to, you know, how on YouTube you've got that feature where you can kind of switch it on over to a TV if you've got a TV that's hooked up to the wireless network. And that's the way I see this is what the NX is going to be. So you can play it portable, and then you just put it in the socket, and it bigs up again with the good language, bigs up onto the TV, and then you can use the controller once it's on the TV. Is the way I'm seeing it working.
Yeah.
There's another thing as well is with how it plugs into a station and then unplugs when you want to move. Is that going to have an impact on graphics? Are we going to see where like it turns down to say they turn the texture details down or something if you're unplugged from it? Like, are we going to see lower quality gaming when we go mobile?
That's not bad. Well, I mean, yeah, because if it's running off battery, then yeah, surely there would be some degree. I can't imagine the screen being any high resolution. I mean, the Wii U resolution, the gamepad screen was something like 640 by 480. So I can't imagine them putting anything higher than 720 on the tablet.
Like, that to me defeats the whole purpose of it as well. Like, if I'm gonna play Zelda, why would I play it in my bedroom on a lower quality when I could literally just sit on my couch and play it through the actual station at a better quality?
Because sometimes you might need the bathroom in the middle of the game, and who wants to stop? Yeah.
There is this thing called the pause button, MT.
No one wants to pause.
There's also shampoo bottles you can read in the bathroom.
And get back to real life, no way.
Another reason I don't see it being very good on commutes is because it is it all depends on the battery life. Even if the screen turns off, like the 3DS, or your phone or tablet, then is it still going to be sucking down the battery while you're at work for 8 hours, and then is it going to be dead by the time you get on the bus to go home?
Yeah, that's true.
It's all guesswork, isn't it? Really, we don't really have much of an idea.
It is, yeah. I mean, the performance. I mean, I don't imagine. It's like what Fowler said. I would imagine there would be some sort of degrading graphics if you're playing it on, I don't know, tablet mode, and then when you plug it into the docking station, it goes to the TV and takes advantage of your full HD TV. But if you look at like devices like the Vita. The Vita is quite a powerful system for what it is, and it uses a ARM mobile chip quite an outdated one now, in fact, especially compared to the mobiles today. But that still offered about 4 or 5 hours of battery life in pure gaming. So I probably suspect they're trying to push to at least that.
Matt, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I'm just thinking of this from sort of a design point of view, like trying to design a game that works when you're sitting in front of your TV and when you're on the go. I just don't know how you make compelling games that do both.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
That's very true.
We tried that with our first game with 1849, and you end up doing these compromises that are just not beneficial for either platform.
Yeah, you kind of have to choose either fully mobile or stationary, like at-home games. You can't do both.
I mean, look at the PS Vita. The PS Vita kind of managed that. It was now you can play PlayStation 4, and if you need to go to the bathroom, you just hook up the PS Vita and take a shit while playing your favorite game. But it is true that you can't really play, I don't know, Witcher 3 on your PS Vita. It needs, like, if you're on the go, like outside of the range of your Wi-Fi. So I think that's the thing now. I think that the NX, if it's trying to be something, it's trying to compete with the performance of, like, you know, PS4 and Xbox One, while, you know, still being able to be portable. Because realistically, I don't know, realistically by now, many people expect a proper console on the go, even with some restrictions. So maybe that's where they're going. Just sort of like a PS Vita version, but like full on. If that makes sense.
And Vod's back.
Yay.
Rant of the day.
Yeah, just getting in there nice and early. I think the question really is here is what Nintendo made enough money with the Wii, for example, for it to do awful for like the next 20 years or so. And like MG said earlier, it's very, very early on in stages. I mean, this is still just leaks going to a publication. We don't know anything concrete yet. But I mean, Nintendo have managed to pull things out of the bag anyway. The Wii U wasn't exactly a great concept, and they seem to be happy to sit in that little niche that they're in, where they don't feel like they have to battle against the other main consoles for things like graphics, and they're quite happy to sit there in their niche and appeal to their quite hardcore audience. And I don't really see them changing much. I mean, I've been looking at comment sections around the web, and although there are some people showing signs of trepidation, a lot of people are just like, yeah, okay, why not?
Well, to be fair, yeah, Nintendo at this point don't really care. They're just going to try different ideas. They're going to think out the box because they've got more than enough money to last them more than 100 odd years because of how freaking rich they are. So they don't really care, in all honesty. They just want to bring people games that people want. That's why we keep getting nice new Mario games and Zelda games. And if that keeps their fan base happy, then they're willing to take the risk on, you know, unusual ideas.
I think that's kind of the point. Like, if any console, what appeals people to any console, it's really the games. So because we haven't seen any game yet, it's very hard to judge at this point.
We've seen a game. We've seen Zelda.
Yeah, which was scheduled for Wii U, and we
That
haven't
was
seen
Wii U footage, wasn't it? We saw.
Was it?
we haven't seen it running on NX.
Oh, okay. I thought that was actually partially on that, or like part of it was on X footage.
It might
does
be.
look really good for Wii U.
It wasn't ever confirmed, so.
The new Sonic game, the untitled one, Sonic 2017. That's a NX game as well. Well, it's going to be on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and NX. It said in the trailer, and that's scheduled for the end of next year.
I think you're one of the few people in the world that still follows Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep, that's how I know this information and you guys don't.
I'm just gonna say I'm definitely not. I'm not. I was so hyped for this, and I'm not. If this is what it is, I'm no longer interested. That's my final bit on it.
Fowler's just in a bad mood.
No, it's not because of Black Desert.
Yes,
I
it is
found out
because of
about
Black
this and got
Desert.
all pissed off about it.
You've lost a sale there, Nintendo.
Yep.
Well, we're running short on time for the news, so we're going to move on to the other news we're going to cover today, which was the absolutely shocking and surprising news. I'm sure everyone was quite surprised to hear that the Ghostbusters tie-in game was pretty bad, and the game that developed it, the team that have developed it, have gone bust essentially pretty soon after they made it.
3 days after the release.
Absolutely love this news story.
I mean, obviously it's sad because people lose their jobs, but you know, if you can't sustain yourselves, I mean,
If you
I
can't
don't know.
sustain a website,
weren't they kind of shoehorned into making it in the first place?
that's my guess. When I was playing the game, because I reviewed it, and I gave it a 3 out of 10, by the way, and
Spoilers.
yeah, but my review's awesome. I enjoyed writing that review. It's troublesome because when I said that it felt like the guys, because visually and the art style, the way they developed it, because they could have easily just done a shitty, like a mobile game, for example. They could have shitty, based off the movie, use crappy looking versions of the movie characters and just knocked it at the door. But they actually attempted to make original characters and make an original story, and the visuals were all right. It just felt like that when they were making it, Activision sort of stepped in and said, "Oh yeah, you're making a co-op shooter, are you? All right, okay. Well, you know that Ghostbusters movie that's coming out in a couple of months. Take that, turn it into a Ghostbusters game, and ship it out." Okay, that's what it felt like.
It seems more of a problem with. I think that there was a rumor that they owed Tencent, which is a Chinese company, $11 million because they cancelled development on a title that was being worked on.
That was it. Yeah, they also
which is a lot to owe someone.
Yeah, I think they pissed off someone else, and then they were saying they were using funds to work on another game, which ended up getting cancelled, I believe.
Well, they haven't exactly had a long and storied history of developing games, have they?
No. Well, I would love to find out by viewing their website, but you can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
I
just
feel
sort of
really
disappeared.
bad. It's not like Activision, have been made bankrupt by it. They'll bounce back. Poor developers.
I find that story quite interesting because it obviously ties in with the release of the film, and the film was after the trailer, which was the most disliked movie trailer on YouTube. The film ended up doing quite well, and I think that one of the main reasons why it did quite well in the box office, whether it was a good movie or not, after that trailer, it was because so much controversy appeared after the trailer that was good marketing. Like any publicity is good publicity, even bad one. So I think that in that sense, people knew that a film was coming out, and then they went to watch it because they knew a film was coming out and all the controversy. But really, I think in general, those people weren't craving a Ghostbusters experience more than they went to see that film because of all the controversy that had appeared after it. If that film was a generally Ghostbuster sequel that was appreciated by fans and newcomers alike, I think that and then people were going to see the film generally for the cravings of seeing Ghostbusters content.
Just a bunch of pregnant women going in, I need some Ghostbusters. That's what's happened.
I know he's talking about the people wanting to go in for nostalgia's sake.
No, I know.
No,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had honestly no appeal to go
nobody
see
did.
it
I think
anyway.
The only thing the game actually held related to anything toward nostalgia was that it used the original Ghostbusters theme. It didn't use the new one. It had the original one on it. But that game was totally naturally targeted towards people who are like, oh, the movie's out. Oh, my kid likes Ghostbusters. I'll get him the Ghostbusters game and pay 40 quid for it.
Stereotyping him or her.
Yeah, but that's what it felt like when I played it. It was a game that was made to target those people to ride on the movie release.
I've just got to disagree with what Vod said, that it was a box office success.
Oh yeah,
Se-
it wasn't.
Secret Life of Pets got like 3 times the gross.
Well, let's
Yeah.
let's
That
not
movie
get
actually
into
looked good.
let's not get in. We have a whole different magazine for film
I
and television, guys.
don't want lies going out on our podcast.
No, from what I read, because I read about it
No, let's
recently,
no,
it
let's
was
cease. We're talking about games, just the game, not the film. Anyway,
no, but I think it's
From a-
I
from a-
said because I don't think if the film had been a truly fun service in a way, people had gone to the game as well, because if fans were really wanting to see more Ghostbusters, the game would have actually profited of that, maybe collateral.
Maybe
Well, let's-
temporarily.
let's,
Have you seen the movie, Vodka?
I haven't actually.
Let's
All right, so your
let's
argument
get
is
let's
valid
get
then.
let's get a developer's point of view on this. So yeah, I know Matt wanted to come in earlier. So is there anything you want to sort of add to this story, guys?
Well, I was just quickly reading about some of the reviews because I wasn't familiar with the game, and wow, there are some staggeringly fun bad reviews out there. But is it true that you can activate controllers as a game mechanic, sort of, to like beat bosses?
Everyone looks at Cal.
Cal, you played it.
Yeah, I sort of like played it by myself because I kept asking other people if like to join me because it's got local co-op, and they said no. I think that might
That's not a good sign.
I think that might have referred because the game, when you play it by yourself, it still has all the other characters with you. They're CPU controlled, so I could assume that's a feature because it means someone can pick up a controller and take over one of the characters. That's what I imagine that feature is. But yeah, it definitely deserves to be quoted on because it sounds amazing.
It just seems that there was not a lot of game design that went on that makes a lot of sense reading some of these reviews.
No,
Well,
it's a rinse and repeat game.
they were a team that had essentially developed tabletop models before, weren't they?
No, that's actually incorrect. It's not. It's not actually. There was some confusion. The company Fireforge Games, who are the tabletop miniature manufacturer, have nothing to do with Fireforge
I
Games,
see.
who made this game. It took us a while. I think Ace found the website in the end, and it was unreachable. It just says access denied.
No, that was. I'm pretty sure that was the tabletop models website.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Well, this is why people sue each other for name rights, guys.
Yeah,
These
that's
types
true.
of confusions don't happen.
I know.
But we've come to the end of the news section, so we're jumping straight into the main topic, which, in the honour of SomaSim being here and the imminent release of Project Highrise next month, I believe, we're going to be talking about simulation games, tycoon games, and all kinds of, theme hospital style games. I'm sorry if I've ruined it if someone wants to talk about that in a second. But yeah, we're going to be talking about ones we liked, ones we don't like, and ones that are inexplicably popping up on Steam Greenlight, I imagine. So I don't know if anyone wants to hop in with a game they want to immediately talk about, simulation-wise.
Long live the Queen.
Oh,
What a great game.
the game that's
honestly.
tagged as simulation on Steam, so technically
It
you can
is
talk
tagged as simulation on Steam, so therefore I can talk about it. It's a princess simulator. It's the best game, honestly. It's so good.
Wasn't Dominate playing that for a while?
Yeah, he was, because I recommended it so strongly that he got it and was like, this is
Alright.
really hard, because it's so difficult. It's really, really good. You have to go to classes, and then you have to decide where you're gonna learn, and then you have to pass checks to make sure that things can happen. So you have to be good at fencing or magic, or you have to have good social etiquette and that sort of thing. But if you fail checks, it goes in a different path, and there's loads of different. It's good. It's good. That and City Skylines, both two fantastic simulation games.
I think I have to second City Skylines, especially.
Yeah.
Especially what? We lost you.
Especially.
Oh. We did not lose you. You just stopped talking. Sorry.
I do like City Skylines.
I think I reviewed it.
You did.
Yes.
Well, since you guys are the honorary guests, Matt and Rob, what games would you like to throw out there as some inspirations, perhaps, for Project Highrise?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where to start. I mean, I think I would just start with the game that I'm stuck on right now, which is Stellaris. I can't stop playing it. I've had dreams about it. I love that game. It's bad for development when I sit there working on scenarios for Project Highrise and go, I need to go play Stellaris. Like, there's a whole... I hit 100 hours on that game remarkably quickly.
Yeah, I think I reviewed Stellaris for GameGrin again. That was a game where I could not stop playing it. It was one of those games where there are some games where you have to stop playing because you have to get dinner, and then there are other games where you stop playing because it's time to go to sleep and it's like 4 a.m. and you haven't eaten dinner.
Yeah, it's a time warp of a different kind. It's not like the one more turn Civilization style thing. It's more like, why is the sun rising?
Yeah, I think it's because there's no end turn button, is there? There's no finite sort of, oh, that's the end of this turn. It's just continual, and you speed it up, slow it down, and you're just sucked into this immersive like galaxy that's surrounding
It
your...
looks so complex.
I mean, I play a lot of Paradox games, like the grand strategy games, and believe it or not, this is one of the less complicated ones.
Yeah, I can believe that. Paradox are like notorious for really, really in-depth gameplay, aren't they?
They are. I mean, Victoria 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, but it's not something that I would ever recommend to anyone that I like, just because... I mean, some games have a learning curve. Victoria 2 has like a learning cliff. You have to like put on a wingsuit and jump and hope you land.
Yeah. It was similar with Hearts of Iron 3 when I first got that by Paradox as well. And it's a game where you have to spend an hour or two watching tutorials and reading guides just to actually start it.
I've tried Hearts of Iron 2 probably half a dozen times, and I appreciate it. That's probably a great game, but I will have time for it later. But every time I start it, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now.
I mean, they've done quite well with the latest one with 4. They've made it a lot more accessible, which probably predictably has angered the hardcore fans who want something where they have to read a manual to really know how to organize their supply chain and things like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how some of the more hardcore fans have reacted to Stellaris. I haven't really paid attention to very much community response to it.
I believe people they liked it quite a lot, but there are some things they thought the diplomacy was a bit shallow and things like that.
Yeah, I guess it is, but I think they were going for more of a 4X kind of civilization experience with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would imagine the player base for Stellaris is slightly different than the core Paradox player base. I would imagine the crossover into the civilization like strategy, but not grand strategy kind of players is much stronger. So maybe the core Paradox players have been okay because they maybe haven't been playing it so much.
That might be the case. I think when you own as many Paradox games as I do, especially, you tend to flip between them. One minute I'll be playing Hearts of Iron 4, and then I'll be like, but I kind of want to be in space now. And then I'll be playing Stellaris and be like, I kind of want something more character driven. So then I'll hop over to Crusader Kings 2, and then it's sort of repeat, add infinite.
You kind of do that with games in general, though. Let's face it.
Yeah, I do have a butterfly mind when it comes to playing games. Which is why the game I'm playing right now, RimWorld, is the one that's holding my attention. Since I'm previewing it.
Great game.
That's one I really want to get, but I'm not allowing myself to get any games until we ship this.
Exactly, it's a studio policy. It's a studio policy right now. No new games until October.
It's punishingly hard, which is what I love the most about it. I think I restarted like 40, 50 times now because I've just not got off the starting block with it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I want it.
Just looking at it now. Inspired by Dwarf Fortress.
Fantastic
oh, dear.
Yeah. I mean, it has easy settings, but the first thing I did was put it on the recommended settings, which is just like they have like 3 AI settings where one is a nice gentle curve, one is that lets you base build, and the other one is completely and utterly random. And then they have difficulty settings on top of that. So I chose the most extreme difficulty with the random event generator, and I think within 5 minutes of my colonists crash landing on this planet, a toxic miasma had descended and everyone out in the open started getting cancer. And then I got raided by pirates a few minutes after that, and then a man-hunting turtle killed one of my other colonists a few minutes after that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
the random is
Just
very
put it on my wish
harsh.
list.
It's I've had similar experiences with the random, and I stopped
And,
using it
yeah.
just because it's too hard to start.
I keep using it because, like, I only today I had one colony that I'd set up and had become positively thriving. I had 6 or 7 colonists. They each had a good job. We were like building resources. I was getting towards the late game, and then the game just throws a curveball at you, and you lose everyone in one go. Like, I got attacked by a huge crowd of pirates, and then a load of my guys got essentially what was like gut worms, I think it was, and I didn't have enough medical beds. People started dying of sickness, and then one person went insane because people were dying and set fire to the entire building. It was, and I was just sitting there. This was a game that I put maybe about 4 or 5 hours into separately, and I sat there and just went, well, I guess I'll just go sit in the corner and cry.
And the best part is the mods for that game. My God.
Yes, it's incredibly moddable. It's very similar to Prison Architect in that vein.
Yeah, I was just looking at this. Some of the screenshots sort of remind me of Prison Architect. I couldn't really get into that.
Really, really good reviews.
It's honestly, if you want to spend money on one of those kind of games, that's a good one to do right now.
It's a one-man team as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's made by one guy.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty impressive.
Definitely recommend checking out the Bone. I think it's the Bone mods as well, so that you get when your guys get no actual combat, there's you deal with broken arms and stuff as well, not just the usual medical stuff that's in the game. So it makes it even more detailed and in depth.
Oh.
Hearing you talk about that reminds me of Banished.
Oh yes,
I
Banished.
love Banished.
Banished. I like Banished.
Like I would spend hours and hours and hours playing a game, and then a tornado would hit, and people would starve to death, and then I would just want to go in a corner and, like you said, cry because like they're all dying and all starvation. And I once had a town where a tornado hit, and then a fire started, and then this was after like 50 years of playing in game.
Yeah, I always get like my villagers get really, really cold, and then I'm like can't get firewood to them quickly enough, and then just everyone just dies of being cold, and it's very depressing.
The worst part about that game was when people would starve to death during the harvest.
Yeah, as you're bringing the food out and you can't get it to them quickly enough.
There's an orchard full of walnuts. Eat the walnuts. But no, they go wander off in the woods and die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a case where because of how the areas are so randomly generated, I had a moment where like I could only grow potatoes, and I kept trying to get trade more different seeds for everybody, and they just wouldn't take it. They just decided not to have potatoes anymore, and I was like, well, what are you doing? That's all you've got to eat. And then the winter came, and then everyone died. And my graveyard was massive in the end.
It is one of those games where people tend to finish a story and then sigh afterwards at the lost potential.
And then start again.
Yeah, it's one of those games a bit like Civilization, where I feel like it's really, really good to begin with, and you can pour hours into like getting it to a good stage, and then once you get to that stage where everything's running properly, there's kind of not much of a challenge left. Because I always find that once you get to a certain point in Civilization, once you're just in the modern times, it's, I don't know, I find it less exciting than when you're at the beginning exploring and stuff.
That's very true. The early game in Civilization is wonderful, and then it's sort of like the mid game is okay, and then the late game just. But that's been happening in all of the civilizations.
Yeah, it becomes quite a drag.
And they try and try and try and try to address that, and they still haven't managed to hit that landing yet.
It's okay. Sean Bean's voice
Civilization
will carry us through
6
next
looks
time.
quite interesting.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah, Sean Bean's going to voice a character in Civilization 6, wasn't it?
It's going to be a bad sign, though. Everyone's going to die.
He's reading the quotes when you research technology and things like that. I think Leonard Nimoy did it in 4.
He did. Yeah. You get to hear things like when you discover space travel, Leonard Nimoy quoting Sputnik, going beep, beep. Beep.
Yeah, but I found that Civilization 4 was probably my least favourite. I loved Civ 3 and I loved Civ 5, and I was really into colonization because I used to play colonization like really old on MS-DOS. Was it MS-DOS?
Oh, I remember it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they re-released it, and it's really good. It's another one which is actually very, very challenging. A lot more difficult than the Civilization games, I find.
With both Civ 4 and 5, it wasn't until the first expansion pack that they really got it sort of right. The features were there, the tuning was there. So it's probably going to be a similar thing with 6, where it's like it's going to come out, and it's probably going to be a little bit of time before it reaches the same level of I don't know, gameplay as 5 is right now.
When 5 came out, you could just be the French and completely dominate the world. Like, it was so unbalanced.
What was it that gave the French the advantage? I never played as them, actually.
Their cities generated twice as much culture as everybody else's, so their cities just
that's
became
why I play Egypt.
Massive so very fast.
Ah, I see.
I always play Egypt because they build wonders quicker, so that helps with culture, and then you get culture win like super, super quick.
Yeah, if I'm playing and I see an AI player as Egypt, I restart.
Yep.
Here's a bit of it.
I kill them. I just go after them.
What?
If I see Egypt as an AI player, I just attack them and make sure that they don't propagate.
You just randomly attacked Egypt. Well, it's harsh.
I view war and civilization as a failure on my part.
Yeah. It's a little interesting tidbit for you. With how Sid Meier got his name on the Civilization games, it was actually because of Robin Williams. Yeah.
Really?
Explain.
Yeah. Okay, so basically what happened was they had a dinner together with Robin Williams, and they were joking about, and apparently Robin Williams turns to Bill and said, Bill, who's the founder of the original companies, Bill Steely, I believe, and he says, you should put Sid's name on a couple of these boxes and promote him as the star. And that's how he got his name on Sid Meier's Pirates and Sid Meier's Civilization.
Huh. Well, there you go.
The more you know.
To spawn similarly titled games like Chris Sawyer's Roller Coaster Tycoon and Tom Clancy's Everything.
Well,
Tom Clancy's Everything.
Speaking of Sid Meier's Pirates, the remake from the early noughties, that's one of my favourite simulation games.
I
couldn't get on with it.
I played the original.
Yeah.
On flop, I think I got it on. I forget if it was floppy disks or 3 1/4.
The original was so good.
It was.
Do you know how the remake differed, or was it just graphical?
It didn't have pirates.
I found the navigation on the remake was really I couldn't get to grips with it at all when you're on the ship.
I really liked it all, and the sword combat was different to anything that I'd played up to that point. It was mainly third-person platformers and side-scrolling platformers that I played, and then I entered a competition while Atari owned the property and won a signed boxed copy of Sid Meier's Pirates.
Oh wow,
that's pretty cool.
That is pretty neat.
And played it to death, and bought it on Steam summer sale.
I'm just gonna say it now, but Football Manager.
We knew you were going to say that eventually.
I had to say it at some point.
Yeah.
How many hours have you got on Football Manager?
Altogether or just this year's?
No, altogether.
Going on 6,000, maybe 7,000.
Jesus.
I was going to say,
wow.
Is there a number? Is there a number equal to wasted my life?
Look, I can't. It's an addiction.
To be fair, I'd probably
Clearly.
put that many hours into all the Arma games together as a sim game.
Oh no, it's fine. It's not 6,000. It's about 5,700. So that's fine.
There's only been ever one game of mine that I've put about 1,000 hours into, and that was Call of Duty 2. Because I love that game.
I just hit 2,000 on Civ 5 not too long ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know where you find the time, some of you people.
Well, since 2009, which is the first Football Manager I got, I have spent, and I spent 241 days playing Football Manager.
Jesus.
But don't you
So
leave
I'm
on the-
coming close to a year of Football Manager.
Yeah, but don't you leave it in the background sometimes where you're doing other shit?
I do.
Yeah. I suppose that, like, if you could count my Netflix time, that would probably be in the 1500s, maybe 2000s. Because I just literally leave that on in the background while I do work.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Civ time is probably just me saying, I'm not hitting the arrow next while I'm reading a web page, so...
My favourite simulator has got to be Theme Hospital.
Oh, that's a classic.
I love that game because it was one of the very first games I played, like that and Age of Empires as well. Sort of, I used to play a lot of first-person shooters, but it was like sort of, oh, I don't know, I should check out this game, and it's like a theme game, okay, Theme Hospital, and it's really weirdly addicting, especially when you're trying to manage this hospital, but then all you really want to do is sort of build a toilet and just leave one cubicle and just see how long they last.
That's mean.
Yeah, just cruel. I think
The
was
hospital
have one
administrator
janitor.
is cheating. That was my favourite.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
really funny game too. I mean, its sense of humor was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
It had like
That
the perfect
and,
mix of accessibility, humor, like quite deep core mechanics as well. And
Yeah.
there were like something like 20 hospitals to do as well in the main game.
It was pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, if you're doing the campaign, when you got further on the little board as well as it did get really hard. And I had
Roller
to
Coaster Tycoon was another one that was really good.
That was
Yeah.
good as well.
Yes.
I still
Spent hours on Roller Coaster Tycoon.
preferred the 1 and 2 to the 3D one.
Yeah, I never
2
played
especially.
after 1 and 2.
It peaked at
There's
2.
not been a good Roller Coaster Tycoon game yet.
Do you remember Theme Park World as well, where you could
Yes.
go on the roller coasters? That was on PS1, wasn't it?
I think
Yes,
yeah,
it
I
was.
do. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a lot of fun.
And then
It's
it got
funny,
blown out.
You remember Populous?
Wait, what was that? Was that Rob that was saying something?
Yeah, I was just saying that my memory of Theme Park, since I haven't played it initially when it came out, I only came back to Theme Park after already playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, and my memory of it was really just the load times because everything that was sort of superseded by Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then the only thing that stuck out for me was like, oh wow, this really takes a long time to load, which is
think a
unfortunate
lot of
because
them
I'm
have that.
sure it was a great game. It was just I haven't played it when it initially came out, so I
Yeah,
lost out
not
on
after
that.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
I think
Somebody
a lot
totally
of
get
games
that.
back then had that though. Like all of the sim type games back then had extremely long load times.
That is true.
You look at the Sims 2 and all that stuff, Zoo Tycoon, all those games, they all had super, super long loads.
Oh man, Sims 2 was so good.
I did actually enjoy Sims 2. I haven't played the third one or the fourth one, but I did play a lot of the first and second one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Sims has really had its day, to be honest, isn't it?
I enjoyed mostly just like sort of like because you can go to the construction mode and just sort of build your own house. I just like doing that, like recreating, like be a bit of an architect and just sort of build my own little house. And then I would just leave everything else on auto, and leave someone in the swimming pool to die, which was a mistake. It was funny though because like someone would go out swimming, go swimming for a little bit, get out of the pool, go to the gravestone, which happened to be right next to the swimming pool, start crying, go off and make themselves some sandwich.
Yeah, extreme bipolar disorder in Sims.
Definitely.
That is if you didn't delete the ladder and they couldn't get out of the
Hey,
pool.
there it is, yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
is
think
very
everyone
true.
did at some point.
Yeah.
You guys are terrible people.
Oh,
come
don't
on.
act like you didn't do it.
Hey, I never did that. I did
Oh,
much
how
more
did you
creative.
kill your Sims? Yeah, there we go.
But
Well, speaking of Sims, have you actually killed us yet on your Sims? MZ?
no, I've not played it. I created the GrinCast on The Sims, on Sims 4, and no, I haven't killed anyone yet because I haven't played it for a while. But I definitely need to kill at least one member of the GrinCast.
Ooh,
We can
Yeah.
turn it into
throwing shade, throwing shade.
we can turn it into a murder mystery.
Oh,
Whoever
Yeah.
was knocking over the trash bins should be the one that gets killed.
That was Dominoid.
Yep,
Poor
there we go.
Dominoid.
I think The Sims awoke in me my the realization that I have this thing for perfect symmetry, and it's similar in Prison Architect as well. I think I recently went back to Prison Architect before RimWorld took all of my attention, and I'd spend a good half an hour to an hour just planning the prison using the planning tools, drawing a blueprint on the ground that was all perfectly perfectly symmetrical, and like had the right curves and had all the right sizes. And if 2 rooms were misaligned, I'd get really annoyed and have to redo them. Which, yeah, it's something that has persisted throughout my entire time playing architect games or simulation games.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that recently with City Skylines. I sort of try and keep everything sort of in a nice pattern. Like, there is going to be the business area, there's the shopping, there's the homes,
and then the traffic ruins all of it.
Yes, it does. Yeah, unless you use a mod that manages the traffic a bit better for you. I need to go back to that game. I need to check out the nightlife one.
But traffic is kind of part of the challenge of it, right? You start out with everything sort of set up one way because you don't have a lot of money. You're sort of like trying to keep everything together and stuff, and then 2 hours, 3 hours into the game, traffic kicks in and messes everything up.
Yeah.
That is
your
it.
nicely laid out city.
And even when you upgrade the roads to try and manage it better, it still ruins it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really sort of impressed with how they managed to get this mechanic that doesn't kick in until 2 or 3 hours into the game and changes everything. It feels so good.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where you really want to kill that bird that keeps tweeting you. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, yes.
There's actually
Are we
a mod
talking
that
about
turns it off.
City Skylines?
Yes.
Yes. I love
It's
that game.
tuned out there.
I know, like, with City Skylines, it's essentially like the better version of SimCity. But did anyone actually play SimCity 2013?
Yeah.
Rob did for a while.
Yeah, I played it for quite some time as well.
See, a lot of the complaints were like saying you were really restricted because of the amount of land you had, and it was sort of dumbed
Just
down.
made you get creative.
Yeah,
and also it was kind of like you had to multitask between different, because yes, you were limited on space, but then you'd have like 4 or 5 different cities that kind of worked with each other. So it was more about kind of going back and working on each individual city to make it balance as a whole, because you had like the community projects as well. I still stand by the fact that I think it's a good game. I enjoyed it, but I think City Skylines was better. But I think both are great games.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the SimCity, and I really enjoyed it. And I can understand people saying, yes, you're limited on space. But it's like you said, yes, you can jump between, you can buy different plots of land and then build another city and then interconnect between the two and work together. Yeah. And then build a wonder.
And it was fun to play. Sorry, big yawn. It was fun to play with friends as well.
I think I've realised how good City Skylines was when I was working as a copywriter at the time, and I found myself doodling on my notepad road patterns and interchanges and Googling different types of civil engineering so I could get my traffic flowing just right. And then it's still ending up frustrated at the end of the day. But again, it's like we said earlier, it's one of those games where you spend ages and ages creating what you think is going to be a very successful city, and then the extra garbage trucks hit, and then the industry traffic appears, and suddenly you just like, oh, I'll delete this roundabout. Oh no, that's made everything worse. And then
sewage gets worse, and then you have to raise taxes, and then everyone gets unhappy with you, and you think, well, sod you all, I'll start again.
They really got that mechanic right in Cities in Motion too, and I think they carried it through. Like in Cities in Motion, you would build this lovely subway network, and then you would say, well, I'm just going to build this one extra stop that happened to be in a really crowded neighborhood, and the crowds from it would just break your entire lovely subway network that you had built.
God, that was a really in-depth game. I found that there was a lot of micromanagement in Cities in Motion.
I loved the first one.
Yeah, the first one was great.
The second one, not so much.
Is that the same as? I can't remember. There was a game I got a little confused with, like, because people kept saying this is not. There's a game called Cities XL, and that was pretty misled to believe people thinking, oh, when City Skylines came out, they kept saying this is not from Cities XL, and I was playing Cities XL. I bought it thinking it was from the people who made Skylines to try it out before it came out, and I was very disappointed because Cities XL was really bad.
And then they released Cities XXL, and it was
Yeah.
basically the exact same thing.
Yes, exactly.
It's the fun of needing simulation games.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even got onto games like Goat Simulator or Lumberjack Simulator or Farming Simulator.
Oh, they're the best time.
Tires.
Staple of the genre.
Or Project Highrise.
Walking simulators are becoming popular now.
Well, actually,
Well,
since we do have 5 minutes left, we should swing around and talk about Project Highrise for a little bit. Actually, since the game comes out, is there a set date?
Not yet. We're still trying to finalize things like getting the localizations done and stuff like that. But we should have the landing date like within the next week or so for sure. We just don't want to say something and then say, oh no, that wasn't it. But it should be really soon that we have the final date. But it'll be like the first couple of weeks of September.
You've
So is
got
this gonna
good
be-
motivation, haven't you, with not being able to buy games until October?
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Is it? It's going to be a straight up release, isn't it? You're not going through an early access service, are you?
That's correct. Yeah, we decided not to do early access. And we're just doing basically the sort of like you get to make a good impression once, so we're just gonna go and release the game when it's ready and once it's a happy place.
That's
Just gonna
good.
go ahead and say thank you for not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very few developers do that nowadays.
Yeah, I
Well-
mean it's really hard, right? Because it's like on one hand you want to put it in front of people and like give it to players' hands so that they can play it, but on the other hand, it does take it does take a lot of patience to play a game that's not finished, and it is a leap of faith for the player to play the game and maybe it's not done and they have to think, all right, I'm going to come back to this later, it's going to get better. I know that when I play early access games and even doing it from the perspective of a developer who knows the process and everything, it's still hard to like see something that's not finished and remind myself that, oh, it's not finished, I better check in on this in a month. It's really hard.
Yeah. Not just that though, it's the whole premise behind people don't necessarily understand early access as well. Like that how long it can actually take to develop a game. I can say from playing DayZ where they released it probably too early for early access, but they said like everyone should realize this is a 4 to 5 year project. This is what a game of this scale takes, and people don't really get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also like keeping your the attention of people who are playing in early access is also a difficult thing. Like you have to engage players and keep releasing updates and stuff like that. Keep people playing essentially, so they don't forget about the game. But at the same time, when you're a developer, you may want to have little stretches of time in your schedule when you're just heads down on something big. You don't have small things to release, and that's like go with early access affects how you're going to end up scheduling the whole game. I think we did that okay with the last game called 1849. We did do early access, but we did it late after the whole game was done. And the what we did during early access was bug fixes, polish, and also doing all the scenarios. So we all of our early access players helped a lot in like getting the scenarios right and getting the tuning and then right and so on. But the game was basically done at that point, like the mechanics.
You had all your features in there, right?
Exactly. Yes. So that was I thought that was a good way to sort of balance the incompleteness of the game versus giving players something that's really really playable. I would be a little uncomfortable going into early access with something that I know is going to take years to finish. But I mean, people have done it. Some people really successfully. So it's just not my style.
I like that though, because then as well, like you've said with your previous game, you had all the features implemented, and that's a good thing because like you find, at least myself, I find these kind of games, I burn myself out on the current content, and it feels like what you said, like you have to keep putting out updates to keep people interested. But if you've already got all the features in, I doubt I'm going to burn myself out within the first couple weeks doing it.
I think that's what happened for a lot of people with Starbound, which recently hit its version 1 release.
Yep.
People were saying, "Oh, has anything changed in the 4 years since I played it last?"
Yeah, that's exactly. I actually kind of did the same thing. I played Starbound on release, and then I hadn't touched it since.
That's another game that's on my list that I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowing myself to play until this ships.
What's next? After release, what's next for Project Highrise?
Well, we've got a whole bunch of things that, as we've been developing the game for the past few months toward release, we've come up with, ooh, that would be a great idea. We don't have time for that right now. So there are quite a few like content additions and updates that we're gonna get in after release. And then we have some ideas for, right now, if you play the game, there are only offices and apartments, but there are lots of other things that can happen in a skyscraper. Things like casinos and hotels and things like that maybe could be on the horizon. So yeah, we have some ideas for a lot of DLC stuff. So
I believe Steam Workshop's an avenue you're looking into.
I think it's fairly safe to say that that's going to release with the game.
Yeah, I mean,
nice.
I've been on the implementation side, like I've been writing up little tutorials for how to get that, how to make your own decorations and how to make different things in there. So yes, I think that's pretty safe to say. I mean, we haven't gone out and like did a big announcement that's saying, workshop is coming, but yeah, like I mean, there's a workshop page linked to the store page, so I think that's a pretty big hint.
We've done some strong hinting on the Steam forums that it's likely. So.
Yeah. Sorry, you mentioned the tutorials. I've got to say that I really love the tutorials in Project Highrise. Each section has a different building, so it's subtly seeding the ideas to the players. Oh, you might want to build it this way or that way. And the information boxes, how it's all laid out, they're never in the way. And by the third tutorial, you're expected to build a couple of offices. It's like it's seeing if you've been paying attention to the past two. It doesn't say, "Oh, remember, click here to find the offices." It's go on, build the offices.
Thank you so much for saying that, because we've spent so much time on the tutorials.
That's good though.
Yeah,
There's nothing worse than a game going through tutorials where it doesn't actually properly explain the game's mechanics and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going through the motions. It feels like, okay, you want to play this, I want to tell you how to play it.
Yeah, it's always a very tough balance between hand holding too much and on the other hand just like throwing the player out there and seeing if they survive.
Exactly.
And for workshop it's a different kind of a thing, because the tutorials are written like they're actual Word documents. Because our idea for workshop is that you should be able to make mods for the game with nothing more than an image editor, like Photoshop or not MS Paint, but like an image editor, GIMP, Photoshop, something like that, and a text editor. Like you shouldn't need any additional software. So the tutorials are really like me writing the step by step, like, okay, here's what you do, here's what you do, here's what you do, here's how you added these bits, and so on. It's a very different thing, but again, we're sort of trying to do it in a way where like let's start with one concept, then we layer on, then we layer on, then we layer on. Hopefully it'll work out well. I guess we'll find out.
Which is sort of like how you build a simulation game.
Well, there are a couple of game dev simulators.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
game
we
dev
don't want to get
tycoon.
too deep. Don't want to get too deep, do we? We don't want to be talking about developing a game within a game within a game.
Gameception.
Developception.
Yeah, exactly.
Game Dev Tycoon?
Well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the podcast. And time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, so thanks to Ace, Cal, MZ Fowler, and Vodka, and a special thanks to Matt and Rob from SomaSim Games for coming on and chatting to us. It's been great to have you on.
It's been
Thank
great.
you for having
Yeah.
us. This is awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, and look out for Project Highrise on Steam, and also you can find SomaSim at @SomaSim_games on Twitter. And now for my whole lengthy outro. So you can find the GrinCast on Twitter at @GrinCast. Remember to follow us there, where we post up when the podcast comes out, and we chuck a load of GIFs on there to make it fun as well. You can find GameGrin on Twitter as well at GameGrin, and GameGrin is where you can find the podcast, which can also be found on iTunes. Remember to subscribe. GameGrin can also be found on Facebook and YouTube. Just search for the username GameGrin. And remember to check out our sister company Game On, which does lots of specialist magazines on specific games, the gaming industry, and a new film and TV mag. And also remember to check out YouTube because the podcast is going up on there as well. So thanks to everyone who came today. Thank you to you, listener, for listening. And we'll be back next week when it is a live cast on Twitch. But until then, game on.